I'm going to talk about a statistical model for the frequency of earthquake. Let me start talking about a historical earthquake occurred in Santa Cruz County in 1989, that is Loma Prieta earthquake. This is a map of the earthquake. The circle of the blue color at the center of the figure indicates the main shock, the Loma Prieta earthquake, and we can see some other aftershocks around it. Those are gray colored circles. What we're interested in this research is the frequency of main shocks or aftershocks. So the objective of this research project is to develop the statistical model to describe the patterns, the frequency of these earthquakes. So the model is going to give us like two functions, f of x and g of x, which integral are the number of main shocks or the number of aftershocks respectively. The ETAS model is the most commonly used, and it has specific forms for the two target functions f of x and g of x. For example, in its test model, the f of x is constant. And this is a huge restriction in model representation because the target function f of x cannot take any other form of functions except for the constants. And it is a problem because it can cause a critical issue in model fitting if the data of main shock is not distributed uniformly. In other words, if we misspecify the functional forms for the two target functions, then the model won't fit the data. To tackle this issue, we developed another statistical model which gives flexibility to these two target functions, f of x and g of x. And this is really great because we don't have to care about the functional form of these two target functions anymore. All we need to do is just to fit this model to the data set, and that's it. It's going to give us an estimated functions. The functional forms are automatically determined by data. And this is a great benefit for other applications as well, because unlike the seismology, in most cases of other applications, we don't even have an idea how to specify these two target functions, f of x and g of x. And here's a data analysis example. The data set in this case is a catalog of earthquakes occurred in California over the last 40 years. And the left panel shows the observations. The vertical line indicates the time difference between the event's time and the starting points, which is 1981, January 1st. And the black circles indicates main shocks, while the red circles indicate the aftershocks. The data set itself doesn't have information about this clustering like main shocks and aftershocks, but we can estimate this clustering information under the model. So yeah, all these results are based on the estimates. And right panels demonstrate the cumulative distribution for aftershocks. So let's look at the two lines for interpretation. For example, the black line tells us like approximately 60% of aftershocks take place within 4 days after the main shock or after another aftershock. And similarly, if we look at the red line, it's going to tell us like almost all the aftershocks take place within 4 days after the main shock or another aftershock. And in this figure, the black line indicates the estimated cumulative distribution function for the aftershock, while the red line indicates empirical distribution for the data sets of aftershocks, which correspond to the red circle in the left panel. And as you can see here, there's a huge discrepancy between the data-based distribution and our estimated distribution function. And this is because of misspecification of the target function of gx. Okay, and this is a result from our proposed model. And as you can see in the right panel, the estimated cumulative distribution function under our model has improved a lot. It's much closer to the empirical distribution. So we can draw a conclusion that our proposed model can provide an estimated function which is more appropriate for describing the data distribution. And this is about another target function. So there's no big difference between these two models with respect to the estimated function for the main shock. Okay, and in this case, we still used constant form of parametric function for f of x, but if we apply the non-parametric approach to this target function, we might have a different shape of estimated function, which might be more appropriate for data patterns of the main shock in this case. And this is about the distribution for magnitudes. And the histogram in this case indicate the distribution for the data sets, while the blue curved line are estimated density function for the magnitudes. And they're more or less the same with respect to estimated density functions in this case. So in summary, our proposed model has a benefits that is free from the parametric form for the target functions. And it also has a benefit like, yeah, it can give the estimated function, which might be more appropriate for describing the data set.